everyone, I'm Allie Buckman with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to be making this bracelet for you today. I put a little fun thing out online as I was playing with it one evening for a name, and the winner was Claudine. I'm going to call it the Frog Princess Bracelet. It kind of looks like frog legs sticking out here. And this bracelet I'm going to be making with two of our newer products. One is the RoundDuo bead. I'm going to be using the Aztec gold. These have gone over super well as we have been working with them, and this is one of the only colors I actually have left right now. We expect a shipment in shortly, so we're very excited to get that. So it's working with the RoundDuo beads that are going to be running down the center, and then the little frog legs that stick out the sides. I'm going to be working with the 2-hold lentil beads, which are a Checkmate product. The 2-hold lentil beads here that I have are two different colors. I'm going to do the little legs here on the side as one color and then the tops as another. The tops I'm going to do with the purple iris color, and then the bottom I'm going to do with the chocolate brown matte bronze Vega, so it has a little bit of that kind of bronzy look to it, but more of a chocolatey matte brown. When they're laying out here, they look like little chips of chocolate. I'm also going to be using a cup button at the end in that same Aztec gold color. And when you're working with it, as far as the lentils go, you're going to be looking for 7-inch wrist, about 68 of the one lentil that's going to be running down the center, and then outerwise you're going to be looking at about 34 lentils. As far as round duos go, you're going to be looking at about 14 round duos, depending again on length that you're working with. In addition to those, I'm going to be poking out the sides here with some 11 and 15 O's, as well as an 8-O in the middle between those rows and some 11s and 8s on the inside. On the very outside, I'm going to be using the 15-O in the metallic dark bronze. On the inside, I'm going to be using the limed crystal AB. And then for my 11-O, I'm using the silver-lined Lichen bead, which has a nice green tint to it. And then to go with my purple iris, I'm using my 8-O in a magic purple bead. And those are the beads that I'm going to be using. As far as materials go, I'm working here on a bead mat. I have some super new glue for my knots, a good little $2 investment. I have a thread zap to cut my thread that I'm working with. I'm going to be using one needle at a time, size 10 English beading needle. I have wildfire beading thread, and I'm going to be using the green color because I have the green and purple tones that are working with it. And then I usually have close by hand just a needle nose plier to flatten out the end of my thread so that way I can feed my needle on very easily. So to get started on the project, I've laid out my beads, all except for my metallic dark bronze 11 O's and my purple iris 2-hold lentils, because I'm going to be using those in the second row. Our start of our bracelet is going to concentrate on the first row on those frog legs of the Frog Princess Bracelet. So we're going to be using our 15, our 8, our 11, and then our round duos and the brown lentils. I have about 5 feet of beading thread that I've cut, and then I've added an 8-O stop bead that was just on my beading mat, so it's not matching anything for my project, so that way I know it's going to come off at the end. This bracelet again is based on right angle weave, and we're going to be starting here at the bottom and basically building that center row. So to start, we're going to be starting right here next to our stop bead. We're going to add an 8-O, and it's a long rotation of items. So it's an 8-O, a lentil, an 8-O, a lentil. That's going to be 2 of my frog legs. Then I'm using an 11-O, a RoundDuo, an 11-O. That's going to be here on the side. And then go back to the lentil, 8, lentil. The other 8 that's on the other side here is going to be the very, very start of that rotation. I'm going to drop everything down next to my stop bead. And then what I'm going to do is round it out. Again, it's based on that right angle, kind of making round weave. I'm going back through the original first 8-O, the lentil, the 8-O, the 11-O, and the RoundDuo. And I'm doing that in a circular direction away from my stop bead. Pulling the thread nice and tight then, and getting that little starting thread there. I'm going to have my first little frog leg unit. So there you have it. Once you have that first unit, and you're just kind of pushing the tail off to the side, I did forget to mention excuse me, for the tail you want it to be about 3 inches. We're just going to be tying on as we add our clasp. When we come up and down the bracelet, we'll be doing that. So I have it, and I'm going to give it a nice tight pull. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate the sides of my RoundDuo. I'm going to do that creating a little bit of a picot trim with 3 15-0s. I'm going to add 3 15-0s on my needle. So through the RoundDuo, pulling all that thread through. Give a nice tight pull, and that's going to put those 3 RoundDuo or 3 15-0s on the side. I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s on the other side, go through the first hole of the RoundDuo closest to that right angle unit, and at the same time I'm going to be going through my 15-0s. So if you catch a 15-0, not a big deal, because I've caught one of them that I've gone through. I'm going to go through the other 2 15-0s that were put on first. And then I'm also going to sew through my RoundDuo. That is going to be the same step now for every little unit. Giving a nice tight pull. So there I have my first of my frog leg units. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add and start the next one. So the first time I just added 1 8-0. This time we're going to be coming off the RoundDuo bead. So I'm going to add on the side, I'm going to add an 11-0, a lentil, an 8-0, a lentil, an 11-0, a RoundDuo, an 11-0, a lentil, an 8, a lentil. So again, same as the first, but this time we're starting with an 11-0, and we're going to be ending with an 11-0. Oops. Push that all down next to the start of my project. And again, I'm going to be rounding out. To round this all out, we're going to go through the RoundDuo, just like we did the first 8-0. So we're going through the RoundDuo. You don't want to catch those 15-0s. As I pull nice and tightly then, I'm going to kind of just flip it over so I can work with it. I'm also going to sew through the 11-0, the 8-0 in the lentils. I'm going to sew through the next 11-0 and the RoundDuo, just like I did at the start of that first unit. Once I'm coming out of there, I'm going to decorate my sides like I did with the first one, adding 3 of my 15-0s. Go through the second hole of the RoundDuo. I'm going to add my 3 15-0s on the side here. Go through the first hole of the RoundDuo, and basically we're just circling around. So this has a lot of right angle qualities to it, even though it's not really a right angle weave. We're still making that box and having kind of those right angle qualities. You do want to give a nice tight pull after you go through the RoundDuo, because that's going to tighten up your whole project. I'm going through the 15-0s, through the RoundDuo bead again, and there we have that nice tight pull. So that it has the frog legs to it. Now again, I'm going to start another one of these units, and then we'll just continue on with that until 7 inches. So I'm going to continue doing the same thing again over and over. 11-0, lentil, 8, lentil, 11, RoundDuo, 11. On the sides of that, lentil, 8, lentil, and an 11. Let that all drop. So through my RoundDuo, not catching those 15-0s. Give a nice tight pull. And then I'm going to go up the sides here, all the way to my RoundDuo. So I'm going through all of those beads, the 8s, the 11s, the lentils, over to the opposite side of the RoundDuo. Give a nice tight pull, and now I'm ready to decorate the sides of the RoundDuo with that picot trim of the 3 15-0s, going from the bottom hole to the top hole, adding 3 more, Once I have 3 more, going through the bottom hole of the RoundDuo. After I'm coming out that bottom hole, I'm going to sew through the first set of 15 O's on the side of the RoundDuo where your needle is coming out of. And I'm also sewing through the RoundDuo. So again, we're just going to continue this for 7 or so inches. If you want to make a 7 1/4, which is standard bracelet, you're going to do this right for about a little less than 7 inches because we're going to be adding our button and our loop at the end of this rotation. So continue making these little frog legs that are hanging out on the side of the Frog Princess bracelet, and we'll pick up where we get ready to add our clasp as we're finishing that 7 inches of length. So just showing as I'm continuing making my little frog legs here. I have a bunch in place and I'm going to keep going, adding that rotation of the 11, lentil, 8, lentil, 11, RoundDuo, 11, lentil, 8, grab myself another lentil there, 11, and then swinging around, going through that RoundDuo. On some of the RoundDuos it gets a little bit tight, but you can pull it through easily. If you want to, you could use a size 12 needle. I just hate size 12 needles, so I try to avoid them as much as possible. But in some cases you do have to use them, and it's worth threading it so that way you don't have as hard of a time pulling it through objects. And I'm going through my 11 bead, out my RoundDuo, and then I'm just going to decorate my sides with that picot trim and continue on. So I'm continuing to build my 6.5 inches for me, about 6.5 inches of this bracelet. It's going to tighten up just a tiny bit, but not really that much. So I'm at my last unit here of the little frog legs, and what I'm going to do is show you how to put on the end. So I'm going to be putting the cup button on this end, and I've chosen that Aztec gold color to kind of match my RoundDuos going through the center. I'm going to do one more set of my little frog legs. So I'm going to be adding my 11-0 and my lentils. And then instead of adding an 11-0 and another RoundDuo, I'm going to pick up just an 8-0 and continue on with the pattern. That's going to close it off just like we did on the other side when we started. So I'm going to go back through my RoundDuo here and give a nice tight pull. I'm going to flip my project so I can work on it easier. I'm going to take my thread and needle, back the sides, all the way back to that 8-0 bead. That would be in place of where the RoundDuo is. When I'm coming out that 8-0 bead, that's when I'm going to add my clasp. To do that, I'm going to add an 11, an 8, and 4 11-0s. So 11, 8, 4 11-0s. Let that drop down next to my project. Up through the back of the cup button then, I'm going to go. Coming out the cup button, oh, I forgot to get one of these out, so I'll quick grab one. Coming out the top of the cup button, I'm going to add one of my lentil beads. I'm going to add that in the purple iris. So I'm going through the lentil, and I'm going to go through the other side of the lentil in the cup button. So I'm coming out the back. So the lentils are going to decorate the cup button nicely. I could also use a couple little seed beads up there if I wanted. On this other side then, I'm going to add those 4 11-0 seed beads. And then I'm going to add my 8-0, and then I'm going to add my other 11-0. So I'm just doing the same thing in the opposite pattern. I'm then going to go back through that same 8-0 that I'm coming out of, that one that's at the end, and what that's going to do is round out that whole clasp. I'm going to reinforce the clasp by going through the whole thing one more time, including all those seed beads and the lentil at the top, down through the cup button, all the way out then, down through the side here, give a nice tight pull. I'm going through that 8-0 again, and then I'm going to come out right after that 8-0. That's going to give me an opportunity to get ready to start on my sides. So here we go. I've gotten an opportunity to hang out here and pour out my extra little seed beads here in my new color of my lentil. Let me move my bead mat over a little bit so you can see those. And what I'm going to be doing now that I'm coming out this 8-0 is I'm going to be going up the sides of my lentils and adding my little peaks to my frog legs. To do that and to get to the outside of the lentil, I'm going to be doing one side and then I'm going to be coming back doing the other side. At the end of the one side, we're going to make our loop. To get to the outside hole of that first lentil, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 11-0s and 1 15-0, and then I'm going to sew up through that top hole of the lentil. Those beads will just kind of pop in there, right there next to the clasp, and just hang out there. When I'm on the sides then, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding my lentil and doing a 3 picot trim on the top with 1 15-0, 11 15. In between the lentils then I'm going to be adding an 8-0. Very simple step, very, very easy after going through that right angle weave. So the lentils are going to go underneath or on top of the 8-0s from the row previous. So I'm going to grab my first lentil. After I grab the first lentil, I'm grabbing a 15, an 11, a 15, letting that all drop next to my project. I'm going to go down the second hole of the lentil, and I'm also going to pick up the next hole of the lentil from the previous row. Give a nice tight pull every time after this. I know people get sick of me saying that, but that way you're not going to see thread. If you don't want to see any thread at all, you can even pick up a 15-0 before the lentil. That's up to you. Now when I'm at the side of the RoundDuo, I'm just going to pick up one of my 8-0 beads and sew through that next little lentil. And you can see what's happening is it's kind of pulling the lentils to the side, and that's what's going to give that frog leg appearance. Once I'm to the next lentil here, what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to add my lentil, my 15, my 11, if it wants to stay on, and then a 15. Drop that all down, go through the second hole of my lentil there, go through my brown lentil from the base row, give a nice tight pull. That's going to tighten up that side a little bit. Pick up my 8-0 seed bead and sew through the next lentil. As you do this, one side will kind of become curved a little bit until you do the next side. Like I said, there's a tiny bit of shrinkage, but not too much that you need to worry about it. If you don't like as much of the scallop look, what you can actually do is just, again, add a 15-0 on each side of the underside here where you're putting the 11s. So I'm just going to continue on doing my lentils and then 11s, or my 15s and my 11. You could even reverse that. Make that 15 kind of stand out on the side. Going through then the next open hole of the next lentil. Once I have that and that in place, adding my next 8-0 and my magic and through the next lentil. Again, we're just going to continue the side, continue down the side, adding the lentils and the 8-0s. So I've come down the whole side here, adding my lentils. It looks so pretty decorated there on the side. And what I'm going to do on this last one is add the lentil just as I have been doing, adding my 15-0s on the sides, and then dropping down here to the other side of that lentil that I just added, and also through the first lentil, the very first lentil. Give a nice tight pull. That's going to tighten up that side a little bit. Again, if you don't want it to tighten at all, what you can do is just add a 15-0 either on the sides of the 8, or you can add a 15-0 on the lentil. With the sample piece, I had used RoundDuo beads in the 8-0. That kept it a little bit flatter, more so than these magic 8 beads, but it's still going to go fine once you add the other side. So when I'm coming out to the back here, the bottom, what I'm going to do is actually slide off the stop bead. So I'm going to take that stop bead here, slide that stop bead off, or at least out of the way. So it's just kind of hanging out the bottom here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the loop. Because I'm coming out the second hole, I'm going to actually start the loop out of that second hole and then kind of add to it. So I'm going to be starting just like I did the other side with one of my 15-0s and then I'm going to go to 2 11-ohs, and then I'm going to go through that 15-oh bead, or I'm sorry, that 8-oh bead. That's at the bottom there. Just kind of push that stop bead out of the way for a second because we're going to be knotting onto it. On the other side here, I'm going to do the same thing basically to get to the outer area. But first, what I'm going to do is add my loop. So my loop is going to be added with 1 11 and then 1 8 and then a bunch of 11s. And you can decorate this however you want to. You can add the 15s in, you can do it with an 8. The loop is up to you. Add more of these in here. And I want the loop to be just big enough that the button goes through. So I'm going to use about 28 beads. I use the cup button a lot. The cup button, for those of you that haven't seen on the other videos or watched the information, it's actually a design idea that came from an antique store when we were in the Czech Republic on one of our trips to meet some of our suppliers and to meet some of the factories there. And we had gone into an antique store and they had an antique booklet of some of the different glass samples from one of the factories. And that's where the cup button idea kind of came from. As we made modifications to one of those examples from the glass factory from the antique booklet, and then we ended up with a cup button. So now that I have my loop, I'm going to repeat on the other side, just doing an 8-oh and an 11-oh. I'm going to swing back through that original 8-oh that was at the base of the project. Give a nice tight pull. I'm going to go back through all of those 11-ohs and the 8s that I used. The 8s that I used on the side, just decoration, just to give it a little bit more. I'm going back through all those beads. If you want a cool look, you can use peyote on the beads here and add another row of just 11-ohs or 15-ohs, which will go on the inside. I love to do peyote loops as my loop on the other side of the cup button. Once I'm down this project and I'm coming out, I'm going to come out right after my loop. That's going to put me out right next to that original thread, so that original starting thread. At this point, I'm going to tie a knot with those threads. And that's going to basically end that starter thread. What I always do when I tie my knots is I like to do a little dab of glue. Because I'm not going to do that until my project is finished, just in case I would need to go back on it at all, what I am going to do is just take my burner, making sure you're not burning off that thread that you're still working on. I'm going to burn off the start of the thread, keep a little tail, and that way you know where you need to glue. On this other side then, I'm going to sew through my 8-oh. That's at the base of the project there. When I'm coming out that 8-oh, that's when I'm going to add my 2 11-ohs and a 15-oh, and that's going to take me to the second hole of the other side of the lentil and the bracelet. Give a nice tight pull that kind of decorates the end there, and the loop's going to sit just behind a little bit. And then I'm going to come down this whole other side, adding my lentils and my 8-oh beads down until I get to my clasp. So again, just add the lentil, 15, 11, ooh, where it'll pop off, 15, 11, 15. Down the other side of the lentil, out the top of the lentil, add my 8-oh, and continue on, making those little frog legs pop out to the sides by adding on your 8-ohs and your lentils to the Frog Princess Bracelet. So I'm getting ready to add my last little lentil sticking up here at the top. And off camera as I'm doing this, I'm kind of falling in love with the lentils. This is the first opportunity that I've had to work with them. It's actually about 6 o'clock in the morning here where I am. I have my youngest is teething and was up all night, so I'm up early, so just continue on with the day already, and I'm really falling in love with these lentils. Now that it's quiet at the house, this is kind of nice and relaxing. I get to do this video and play around with these 2-hole lentils. So what I'm going to do on the end here as I come out is I'm just going to decorate the end just like we did the start. we're going to do 2 11-0s and a 15-0. Oh, opposite, sorry. I'm all excited about the lentils and did it opposite. 1 15-0, 2 11-0s, go through my 8-0. And kind of pop that to the front so the button sits towards the back. What I'm going to do then is, if you want to, you can reinforce your clasp one more time because your thread and needle is already there. So, and I did right about 5 feet of beading thread and had exactly enough. I'm going to come down to my project, and then all I'm going to do is pick up some warp threads underneath. One set at a time here. And I'm going to tie some knots. Make a loop, sew through that loop, and then do a knot. Pick another place, do the same thing again. And then I do a little dab of glue. If you sew through your project, you can do that too. Some people are really love to sew through their projects, kind of reinforcing it and tying as you go. That's up to you. I usually do about 3 to 4 knots. It's kind of like when I make earrings, I always do about 2 or 3 coils on my eye pins. People get in habits and they do that. It's the same with some people having the preference of the wildfire versus fireline. I've used both. I like the wildfire because the projects I do, I don't have to go through the beads a lot and the thickness really works well for me. So once I get to the end there, I'm going to just burn down my thread a little bit, keeping the end on. That way I know where I need to glue. I'm going to take my super new glue here, great little $2 investment, glue right where I made my knots. In there. I'm going to come back to the other side, glue right where I did that one too. And then what I'm going to do is take my thread burner. If you don't have a thread burner, get one. You will love it, I promise. And I'm going to take my thread burner to the end. What I can do is, if I cut it short enough, I just burn that down. On the other side, same deal, just burn down my end of my thread. And there you have it. Here is the Frog Princess Bracelet. And when you put it on, it has a great look to it. I always make my bracelets a little bit bigger than fit me because I have a rather tiny wrist. So this is going to be a standard 7-inch bracelet when you're getting done with it. And it has a really great look to it. It lays really nicely. It kind of has a lacy look. And doing this, I realized, wow, we could do this with all kinds of different things. You could do it with super duos. You could do the inside with the 2-hole lentils, or I'm sorry, the 2-hole tiles. So you could do this bracelet with a bunch of different items that you have. You can do it kind of monochromatic. You can do it fun and funky. So a lot of different variants that you can do with this fun Frog Princess bracelet. If you want to also, just looking at it here at the end, you could make your loop a little bit bigger and with a RoundDuo, and then it would fit into the project design as well. So hopefully you have fun if you've gotten a chance to play with these 2-hole lentils. If you haven't gotten a chance to play with these awesome 2-hole lentils, get some. They're so much fun to play with. I'm falling in love with them just after this one project of fun use with the lentils. If you get a chance, you can check out the rest of our YouTube videos. If you subscribe to the channel, you can also pull down to send notifications. You'll get an update every time we do a video. You can also check us out on Facebook, and we do fun little things like we did with this, that you can name the bracelet, and then I'm going to send materials to you for the names. I love naming them sometimes as a chore. So if you guys want to do that more often and you guys liked that, I will do that more often as well. If you can get to one of our retail stores, we would love to see you at one of the stores and help you out gathering materials for some different bracelets. We also teach some different classes that are just in-store only, so check out your local Potomac Bead Company for those details. Thanks a lot for watching. Have fun. Have a great day working with these fun 2-hole lentils and RoundDuo beads.